World War III is here. It's a class war, so it's not exactly what you think it is, but it has absolutely started. World War III has started, and if we look at what we consider World War II to be, it started with a bunch of small conflicts, overreaches of power of the German government and the fascist nation, the nationalist movement that started in Germany, and it ballooned into what it was because of appeasement, because of escalating tensions, and because of those thinking they were superior and taking every crumb of power they could get from those who would give it to them. We are in the same situation now. And in fact, the United States wrote the playbook for this. I am not the first person to say this. I am not the person that's best going to say this. However, I am going to connect it to the things that I have experienced, the things I know, and say it in a way that hopefully connects these three things and shows you why everything is connected and why it matters and why you can't be an anti-intellectual about things, because you are furthering the cause. And by the cause, I of course mean Nazism, which, fun fact, the Nazis got from the racist state of America. Because guess who was built on slavery? We were. I say we because we are still built on slavery. We are built upon all of these foundational elements of all of these different aspects of a structural society that has been completely built on the backs of slaves, prison labor, and those that are deemed lesser. And now, with all of this intro, I actually have to explain what I'm talking about. World War III has started. World War III is a class war. World War III is not the same thing that we've seen in previous textbooks and previous iterations of how we look historically at war. It, in fact, has solely to do with a class system. It is the haves and the have-nots. If you want to get more particular, you can go read Marxist theory. I'm not here to teach theory. I'm here to look at everything as is and derive it from base principles, because that is what astronomy and education has taught me in the face of fascism and the rise towards what we now have as World War III, our class war. My credentials. I am a master of astrophysics and astronomy, and I have been working in education and astronomy, cultural cosmology, the study of the universe, and education, and how to educate everyone equitably. And I've been doing this. Overall, my education has taken me 7 years, almost 8, after I graduated high school. And now I'm here, having years of work experience, years of teaching experience, years of research experience, and now, as a queer person in fascist America, watching the class war unfold, watching the fact that no one listened to those who were speaking up, and now we find ourselves in the not so early phases of what we can look historically at for Nazi Germany. We've already had erasure of things that fascists would deem extraneous, and it started with education. It started with my field. I have been trying to figure out the best way to talk about this specific topic, how World War III is a class war and how it's already started. And honestly, it's not gotten easier to try and figure out a way to talk about all of this. Because let me tell you, the last few days, few weeks, hell, the last few years have just added thing after thing after thing to the list of things. I need to stop saying that word. That make it so that World War III is happening, and we can see it in real time. Now, you might look around you and say, what do you mean World War III is happening? I don't see any military in the streets. I don't see anyone dying where I live. There's no war here. And what do you mean class war? How is a class supposed to fight a war against someone? It's called oppression. It's called ICE. It's called a militarized police force that is extrajudicial, which definition of that means it is outside of the judicial system, which is the basis for how the country of the United States of America is supposed to work, and it is being completely ignored by this extrajudicial police force. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty. Did you know that? every person in the United States, whether they are a citizen or not, is to be given due process. Did you know that? Even if you did know that, I bet you still probably don't want to listen to this. And that's okay. But I'm gonna have you here, and I'm gonna make you listen, and I'm gonna make you sit here because you clicked on this video. Because you got angry because you say World War III isn't happening. What do you mean a class war is happening? What do you mean World War III? Well, listen up, fucko. It's happening. People are being abducted, killed, tortured in the middle of the street. If you look at Minneapolis and don't see a war zone, this is recorded on January 16th, 2025 at 9:45 p.m. It might be getting worse right now as I'm recording this, which means there is no time like the present, but right now, to explain why the only course of action when someone is waving a gun in your face is self-defense. When your neighbors and community members and family members and you yourself are threatened with weapons and with force for no legal reason, and there is no recourse for the person that is threatening you, that's war. Okay? I'm going to explain it to you simply. That is war. The United States government has declared war on its people with this extrajudicial police force that is immigration and customs enforcement. We cannot sit idly by while the fascist government implements tactics used by Nazi Germany to actively abduct and kill and torture citizens and non-citizens, because even though you sit there and you say, oh, it doesn't apply to me, it will eventually. Because as soon as the Nazis ran out of Jews, ran out of people of color, and ran out of gay people, they went for people that disagreed with them. Anyone that wasn't perfectly in line was targeted next. And the people that they employed to do it would end up next on their lists. I mentioned before that Nazi Germany got these tactics from the United States. And you might be thinking to yourself, that doesn't sound right. Nazi Germany came up with that stuff. They were horrible. They're a unique kind of evil. You're wrong. Everything that the Nazis got, they got from American white supremacy. You can look this up. There are better sources than I, there are more educated sources than I about this specific topic. And in fact, anytime I mention something like this, I intend to put a link. I think it's going to be right there in the YouTube thing, where there's the little eye is going to pop up and a little video is just going to like come out right here. And I will link to individual creators, to individual videos, long form and short form, that you can go look at for better historical sources for what I am talking about. That isn't my area of expertise. My area of expertise is astronomy and education. Now you might be asking yourself, how does astronomy and education at all relate to fascism or class warfare? How did we get from here to here? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because in trying to make a video solely about World War III being a class war, I had to talk about fascism. And in order to even consider talking about what fascism is or why I'm qualified to talk about it, I had to talk about education and I had to talk about astronomy because that's what I know. That is what I am an expert in. It has taken me years of study, years of work, years of internal reflection and actual study and reading of so many different sources. Shout out, I'm going to try and maybe I can just write them on the whiteboard later, but the historical sources right here and present day sources of people that talk about the things that I talk about with education and class and all of these different things way better than I can. But guess what? It's really hard to look at one individual source or one individual source or one individual thing because that isn't how education works. Education is not looking at a list of things and going, yep, I'm going to memorize this particular thing, or yep, I'm going to learn how to do this one particular thing. That is not how education works. Every single time I teach, whether it's middle school, elementary school, high school, or undergraduate. I have taught every level of education, and the only way that students learn anything is by putting it in broader context, understanding the story of how things connect from what they are learning to what they know to what they experience. And what we are experiencing right now is World War III under fascism. And that has direct implications and effects on the world of education. And the best way I know how to talk about education is through astronomy. Because astronomy, in my not so unbiased opinion, is the greatest subject that we have. Not only because of its scientific merit, not only because of its expanse, not only because of how many different things you can study in astronomy. You can do those for most subjects. You can study anything in biology or chemistry or physics, but I'll tell you this, astronomy is one of the oldest sciences we have. I would argue it's the oldest, because at some point we had to look at the sky and say, hey, that big ball of light in the sky moves. And guess what? That's astronomy. And then we navigated by use of the stars. And then we used the stars and their orbits to determine that the Earth was a sphere. Not just a sphere, an imperfect one. Astronomy has been around since the beginning of civilization because we've needed it for calendar systems, for navigation, for daily life. We have needed to understand how the world and universe around us move. And astronomy is, at its core, the study of how everything around us, universe and local universe, move around us. And I'll be damned if that isn't super fucking relevant for the entire human race of all of human history. So when we talk about education, and when I talk about astronomy, this is the canary in the coal mine. My first warning was last year, right at the end of the spring semester. I was part of an education program through NASA. I was teaching middle school students. We would give them free field trips to a science center. We would have them do a lab activity, and we would give them hands-on learning about a special NASA topic. And all of them, across the board, loved it every single time. And they all learned a little bit about either engineering, maybe they learned about space, maybe they learned about the environment or energy or electricity. That got cut. Within the first 3 months of our current sitting president, as of the recording of this video, taking office, that program that funded free field trips for students to get a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity was considered extraneous. Now, I'll tell you a lot of things about education. I'll tell you a lot of things about my experience in education. No experience in education is extraneous. And if someone looks at you and says, we don't see the value in this piece of education, we don't see what the value in this is, so instead, we're just going to get rid of it. There's a whole nother video probably up on my channel at this point already talking about this specific thing and about how angry it makes me that something has to have perceived value in order to actually be considered worthwhile to teach in a classroom setting. So I won't go too far into it right now. But it is relevant. The fact that the very clearly, as of right now, fascist government that is waging a war on its citizens decided to cut extraneous education programs is not a mistake. Right? All of these things are in the playbook. They wrote it. They publicized their playbook. They called it Project 2025. And now they have a Project 2026. All of this was planned. Fascism is always planned. It's always greedy. it's always self-centered, and it's always at the detriment of the people that the government is supposed to be serving. I've learned a lot of things in my experience as a learner and an educator. The thing that I value the most that I have learned is how interconnected everything is. When education gets targeted, that is not even the first warning sign, but it is one of the biggest. When education gets targeted, it means that those in power do not want those that do not have knowledge or power to have knowledge or power. Education is the first outlet that we need to make sure is secure. As soon as education gets targeted, we end up in the situation we have now. Everything else backslides because they've targeted education. They've been targeting education for years. They've been targeting education for years. They've been targeting different resources for years for those that they consider lesser. Renee Good is not the first person that was killed by ICE, but it is the one that white people noticed. And that's because she sacrificed her whiteness for other people. And as soon as she sacrificed that piece of privilege that she had, she was seen as no different from anyone that those that have the guns consider lesser. And when people that have guns consider you lesser, they do not value your life. We see that. Education was a warning sign. Astronomy is a way of telling stories. Oh, I need to take a deep breath. Education and stories are so incredibly important. I've already said that astronomy is one of the oldest sciences that exist in this world. Astronomy is the stars, the sun, the moon, the tides. It's our history and our future. All that we are is made of dying and dead stars. And eventually, we will all succumb to our own sun's death. It will engulf us as it turns into a red giant. And this planet that we call home will be no more. Rest assured, that's not happening for a very long time. There will also be warning signs if we pay attention to them. But it's not something we need to worry about because we've got hundreds of thousands, millions of years before something like that happens. However, it is something we should pay attention to because if we say, oh, don't worry, we have time to address things, they can spiral out of control before we realize that it's too late. You could say the same about climate change. You could say the same about tax rates on the rich, or regulations on corporations, or something that is even more prevalent right now, which is the epidemic of epidemics, one of which being gambling or the male loneliness epidemic. All of these different aspects of our society that we currently exist in, we had warning signs for. And we decided not to do anything against them because we believed we had enough time. Now, I'm not suggesting that we take a break from everything that's happening right now and try and focus on making sure that we survive as a human race when the sun dies eventually. However, there is a lesson to be learned here, that we can't just ignore our problems because we think they are so far away. Our stories and the history of astronomy are pancultural. Every human tribe, group, city, culture, country, continent has seen and utilized the sun and the stars. Without astronomy, we are not here. Without astronomy, we don't have navigation. We don't have our calendar system. We don't have any of the culture or stories about the stars and the solar system that we have now. Astronomy is incredibly vast, and so is space. We know We know how large all of these topics are. We know how vast all of these pieces of our universe are. Chemistry, physics, optics, even biology. All of these are connected to astronomy. They all have their roots in something related to astronomy or physics. Chemistry is directly tied to physics. Up until, 100 roughly years ago, honestly, probably more at this point because it's 2026, but up until roughly 100 years ago, physics and chemistry were almost considered the same subject. It was physical chemistry for so long. And then we split them because we realized how vast all of these things are, and we needed to deviate and focus in on all of these individual aspects. Native and indigenous astronomy, cultures throughout time, across the world, early navigation, modern exploration, and technology. We can't have our modern GPS without space satellites. And physics and astronomy. Education matters. Everything we learn is connected, just like everything in astronomy is related. We must be willing to learn and be surprised by our universe. And for that, we must listen to each other and to those who earnestly try to teach. Now, is this a way of me trying to get you to listen to me? Yes, absolutely. But it's also because I am an educator. I have spent years of my life dedicated to the study of astronomy and education. And I earnestly want to tell people about astronomy. And I can't do that when we're under a fascist regime. I can't do that when we're under a fascist regime and World War III is underway. Intellect is not inherited. It is learned. Anti-intellectualism is rampant right now, and you know what I'm talking about, and you've heard this buzzword. It basically just means, oh, it's not that deep. Yes, motherfucker, it is that deep. Life is deep. Fucking deal with it. Grow up. If you're a kid right now, I'm really sorry that you have to grow up so fast, because guess what? We're in a fucking world war right now. Ukraine and Russia have been at war for years at this point. I forgot when that war started. Israel has been committing a genocide in Gaza for decades, but also it has gotten exponentially worse since 2023. Guess what, guys? It's now 2026. It's been almost 3 years of a genocide that we've been blasted to our phones, from our phones to our eyes. We can't just ignore something like that, because we're not allowed to anymore. We have to be aware of everything. And guess what? It is that deep, and we do have to care, because now it's here. Because we appeased Israel for so long, and the American government acquired so much power through its authoritarian regime that now we've accelerated the class war. And now we're here because we let anti-intellectuals run rampant, because we let them defund education in the government, and because we've allowed technocrats to implement techno-feudalism, which on paper, like the words themselves, I will say, sound really cool. But when we realize what techno-feudalism means, we're the peasants. And in fact, most of us live proportionally worse lives than what peasants were living. There's a stat somewhere, and I'll try and find it. But essentially, the government and the elites have so much more wealth than us that proportionally, it's more than the kings had back in the 1600s compared to what the peasants had, proportionally speaking. And adjusted for inflation. Either way, it's fucking ridiculous. Anti-intellectualism is stupid. And that's the point for those who practice it. In support of education and teaching, there needs to be more. More fight, more funding, more freedom. The roots of anti-intellectualism are so fucking nefarious and meant to shame and discredit effort. When was the last time someone congratulated you on reading a book? Or wanted to read a book with you? When was the last time you were encouraged to read a book? I'll tell you something. I've got a stack of books that are currently holding up this monitor so my camera is actually in line with my face and not looking up at me, because I realized that having a low facing camera was actually probably pretty bad, and I should make it more eye level so it seems like we're equals, or that maybe like you're a little taller or you're a little shorter depending on like where I am in the frame. But anyways, that doesn't really matter as much. It's nefarious. It's meant to shame and discredit effort. The internet makes it far too easy to proliferate the narrative that learning more and doing research is too hard, not worth it, or that science is untrustworthy, and don't even get me started on AI. I literally read the words in my script here, and I got so heated that I almost went on a rant. I can't. AI has to be a whole nother subject. AI has to be a whole nother subject. It's just a tool. Real art and real science and real human connection and understanding exists. And all of it is almost entirely offline. I will say, I do have real human connection with my friends when I'm in a Discord call with them and playing games with them. That doesn't happen anywhere else. Get off Twitter, get off Blue Sky, get off Threads, get off Instagram, get off Snapchat. Jesus Christ, we have too much social media, guys. This is too much. I'm not even going to bother trying to tell you to get off TikTok because this clip might even be in TikTok for all I know. But get off the fucking internet. Put your phone down. Go talk to someone. Go knock on your friend's door. Go outside. Go hang out with people in real life. I know fascism makes it scary and hard. I know World War III is happening right now. I know everything sucks. But it's not going to get any better sitting inside thinking about it. We have to teach each other. We have to listen to each other. We have to realize that it is that fucking deep. We have to go outside and fight together. Because if we keep sitting inside alone, scrolling on our phones, past all the AI slop, and even if we do eventually get to a person, what does it matter if all of our friends are kidnapped or dead? Oh, it's not that deep. You're exaggerating. Motherfucker, people are dying. It is that serious. Get off your ass, get outside, and go fight for something that matters. The internet makes things easy to access, but the incentive doesn't outweigh internet bias of misinformation and any number of zero-effort dopamine hits. The epidemic of misinformation is one of many. It feels like everything is an epidemic of epidemics, if you will. It's a tactic of attention. The term is meant to feel pervasive and overwhelming, but most importantly, convincing. If we believe that there are an epidemic of whatever it is, male loneliness, brain rot, AI slop and proliferation, if we believe that it's happening, then it is. But if we get off of our phones and go talk to people and confront each other and better ourselves and better our communities and fight back against it, then we will realize that these epidemics are all manufactured. They're manufactured for separation. They're manufactured to make us feel alone. And it's working. And it has worked. It's the only way that fascism actually ends up doing anything. One of the best and only ways to escape the online epidemic cycle is to meet with people in real life. Those who organize events for their friends and the groups they exist in are the lifeblood of every community. Without grassroots organizers, we would never have gotten anything done in real life. Every organization or club or group or social gathering worth its salt had someone organize it. There are always people working to bring us together. And that's punk as fuck. And I haven't talked about punk yet because that's a whole nother thing. I have to talk about punk and AI to even get to fucking astronomy. I just want to teach astronomy, but I can't because fascism is here, man. I just want to sit in front of this camera and teach astronomy. I've lost 2 astronomy jobs because astronomy has been seen as extraneous. You know how devastating that is? It is my dream to work in that field, and I had those jobs, and they got deleted. I was praised for how good of a job I was doing. Those programs got cut. because astronomy was seen as extraneous. No education is extraneous. Fascism makes us feel like it is. And more than that, capitalism is the lifeblood of fascism. You're just a commie. Yeah, motherfucker, I'm a commie. Because I derived that shit from base principles. Because guess what? If you look at me and say, hey, do you want to get paid enough to live? And I just go, well, yeah, I want to get paid enough to live, but I'd rather just have my basic needs met. And if the work I do can help fund other people's basic needs, then I don't really need that much extra. I want to pay for other people's healthcare. I want to pay for everybody else's food. I would like to pay for everybody's housing. I don't care if I get any more money the rest of my life. If the basic needs are met, I'll fucking work, man. I'll do whatever else. When I was an undergrad, I never thought that taking a ballroom elective would teach me that swing dance was anti-Nazi and anti-fascist. I could never have guessed. Learning about each of those things as individual topics and events lowers our general understanding of the broader events and human aspects of war and conflict, and the things people did to resist Nazi rule. The things they did to resist fascism. There's a movie called Swing Kids. I am someone who is not only queer, obviously, look at me, but I'm also Jewish. And this is a little bit of an aside, not that I haven't had multiple of those already. Watching Swing Kids changed me. I was in undergrad. I was still young. I was, I think, 19 at the time. This was pre-COVID. Can't barely remember anything. I was fundamentally changed by that class. Fundamentally changed by that movie in particular. Later that semester, COVID hit. It was early 2020. But I remember sitting in class with my ballroom professor. We'd all watched the movie, we'd all written a paper about it, and instead of dancing for one class, we sat and we talked about how dance was connected to other parts of human life, and what it meant to resist, and what it meant to use dance as a form of expression. If you couldn't tell by the name, that movie is about kids. None of them were adults. But it didn't matter. Because fascists don't care how old you are. They don't care where you're from. They don't care about you at all. They don't see you as human. Fascists will always see you as other. And as someone who has been considered other my entire life, I recognize that I do have privilege. I'm obviously white as fucking snow. But I've been called a kike my entire life. I've heard that word more as an adult, which is surprising. But I heard it the first time as a teenager. And I actually didn't even know what it meant. And I remember hearing it. I remember that doesn't sound right. I don't know what that is. I also remember, before I was even out, being called a faggot in school. Now, I am, of course, both of these things. but it means something different when it's used against you as a form of harm. Because, as I said, it is meant to other you. It is meant to make you feel lesser. Growing up in a small white town with very few people of color is very strange. And I do understand how easy it would be for those people that are currently wearing masks and abducting people in the streets to fall into that pattern, to fall into that hole. Because it's very easy to be swept up, to feel like you belong, feel safe, and to be able to wield power over others. As someone who has had that power wielded against them their entire life, I understand what they're doing, and I also understand the harm it causes. And seeing the movie Swing Kids and sitting down in that ballroom class showed me that there's more people affected than just myself. That this is not the first time something like this has happened. Methods of resistance and art and human expression are all inextricably linked. Music and dance are always punk in origin if we go back far enough to truly understand the interconnectedness of it all. All forms of dance have their roots in either celebration or resistance, and sometimes both. Our current world seeks to drown this human aspect in waves of media epidemics, AI replacement, in creation of art and human expression and connection. Most impactfully, though, in the arena of labor and working class citizens of the world. The ruling and governing economic class is trying to split us apart, replace our art, remove our abilities to connect, but they cannot disrupt our spirit and our drive for real bona fide connection. World War III is not being fought with weapons of mass destruction. It is being waged against those who cannot fight back, and it is being perpetuated by those who see people as a profit margin. Missiles launched by government, media spin to cause arguments on who deserves to be buried in rubble and blood and ash, and people in masks abducting people in the streets. Or shooting them on sight. This is a war of morals. It is a war of attrition, where only those in charge have any material resource at all. All wars have long-standing conflict that boil into something large-scale. The World War III class war is no different. We can see the United States and its proxies and influence for decades. As far back as post-World War II, this conflict has been simmering in the dozens of minor conflicts, foreign wars waged for oil or not, Cold War, red and lavender scares, election interference in foreign states, you name it. The ideology of superiority is older than any living human. Especially this particular brand of superiority that the Nazis stole from the United States. That ideology is old and ever present. It's not something that originated with Nazi Germany. They stole it from America. The white superiority ideology originated here. This country is built on slavery and racism, and the systems that we have been particularly constructed to specifically contain that ideology and keep it alive for the entire existence of this 250-year-old nation. In 1969, Kwame Ture's The Pitfalls of Liberalism. Colonialism and imperialism are big, scary, woke words, but they have very simple definitions and clear practices. Fascism doesn't feel like anything unless you're being oppressed. It is why liberals and conservatives alike will deny it. They say that things are fine except for people who shove things down your throat. Things have been this way for hundreds of years. The group being oppressed shifts and shrinks and grows again as needed, and until pushback of violence and oppression wins out and gets minimal rights for those suffering. This has happened with people of color, with any person of color, whether it's black people, Asian people, Native American people, you take your pick. It's been all of them. At one point, it was Polish people. At one point, it was Irish people. At one point, it was Italian people. At one point, you can go and look at any kind of people. They've all had their fair share. But I'll tell you what, people of color get it the fucking worst. A lot of existence consistently gets legislated, and people oppress, and there are bills made by these bullies, which we will, from here forth out, refer to as Nazis and fascists. Again, we just come right back to this. It's always this, guys. It's always this. And it's always capitalism, too. But we will get to that in a separate video. It feels good to fight them. It feels good to fight against fascism. It feels good and just to fight against what is wrong. It feels good to do the right thing. Because I was taught from the time that I could speak words and listen to them and speak them back, that we do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Something is inherently empowering about fighting for yourself and for others. And I love fighting to stay alive. It makes me feel alive. In reality, though, a constant fight for survival is fucking exhausting. Man, am I fucking tired. But I keep feeling that fire inside me, that fight response, go, hey, you're in danger. The people you love are in danger. And that animal instinct kicks in. And I go, well, if I'm in danger, then I need to fight back. If you can set up a place and form a community to feel safe, then that fight turns from lethal into a passion of human spirit, and an ability to resist the horrific whims of occupiers and oppressors. We can talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs and basic human needs, but we need food, water, shelter, and air. A lot of people are losing access to food. A lot of people are losing access to housing. We kind of still have access to water, I guess, but even that's going to get a little rough with AI data centers taking all of it. And good luck with air quality being shit in cities. I have a house. I have food. I have water. And I have air. Lots of people do not. And I see people that do, other than myself. But there are those that do have those needs met, and in having those needs met, go so far past it that they limit access to resources that provide those needs for other people. Yeah, it's time to fight. It's time to fight. It's time to fight. It was time to fight a long time ago, but now it's even more. It's even more so time to fight. I'm going to feel so vindicated and justified in doing so for the sake of those that I form community with. And even those that I don't have community with. I am falling down. That's how intense this is getting. I feel so validated and morally correct for wanting other people to be fed, housed, and have basic health care. Right? Those are bare minimum. You need your health, you need shelter, and you need food. When those get met for everyone, yeah, then we can start talking about details. I don't give a fuck about anything else, right? You can talk about crime, you can talk about whatever. Until we limit the power of those at the top so that everyone has their needs met, I don't care what happens. I am fighting. Now that fight can look a couple different ways. If someone waves a gun in my face and tries to kill me, I'm not gonna let that happen, because I don't want to fucking die. Now, there are other ways to fight as well. If someone is enacting violence upon you, you have to physically fight back. But there are other kinds of violence other than physical violence. We just keep coming back to it, man. This is such a good graphic. It's so simple. I want to talk about this thing. I can't teach you about astronomy until these two things are addressed. I will start posting astronomy videos, but I can't teach astronomy until I address why I need to talk about these things before I can teach astronomy. Because it's all related. So now we reach the end. And I tried to summarize everything that I've just talked about. Here are the basics. Fascism, pervasive as hell. This is the ruling form of oppression that is occurring right now, right? This is the thing that's happening right now. We have definitions of fascism. I can show a definition of fascism right here. I can link to sources. If you don't want to agree with me, sorry, facts not feelings, man. I know it sucks. I know it's scary. I know it's hard to look at this and just use your brain and think about it because you're so focused on anti-intellectualism and the privilege that you hold to be able to say, no, actually, I don't think it's fascism because I'm still fine. Let me tell you this, unless you're a multimillionaire or a billionaire or an almost trillionaire, you're shit out of luck. You're next. You are being used as low-cost labor to enforce the ideals of the ruling class. This is where we're at, okay? This is where we're at. I want to be here. I want to talk about astronomy. I can't do that because we're here. And fascism has gotten 2 of my astronomy jobs, teaching astronomy, dream jobs that I would have just kept having. But because of fascism and capitalism, I no longer have those positions, and I don't get to teach astronomy anymore. And that hurts so bad, man. Because there's groups of students right now that are in middle school and they're in high school that wanted to learn about astronomy. You know how excited those kids get when I teach them about black holes, when I tell them about what cultural cosmology is. You know how cool of a topic everything is? Space is so fucking cool. Why do you think I spent 7 years studying it? But I can't talk about this because this is too pervasive. And it's become so pervasive that it's caused World War III. And we are now in class war. It is the haves and the have-nots. If you are part of the technocratic, multimillionaire, billionaire class, then this doesn't affect you at all because you're at the top. You're seeing the news and you're seeing all these people affected and you go, oh no, what a shame. All of these people causing dissent and all of these things and oh no, whatever will we do? There's so much crime in the streets. Here's what we're going to do. You are going to give up your resources because you have too much and you're not spending it. You're not doing anything with it. You have too much resource. And all of the companies that you are a part of and you run and all these different things, I'm looking at you, Elon and Jeff, and even, yes, I'll say it, Bill, because he's a piece of shit too, man. But we're talking about class war. The class war is here. It's been happening. We have so many things that we can point to. Billionaires, the AI bubble, wage theft, union busting, genocide. These are all symptoms of class war, which is World War III. Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Palestine, Sudan, the Congo. Any warring nation that you look at and you go, oh man, oh my god, how could I forget? Fucking Venezuela, man. Hold on. Fucking Venezuela, man. We openly invaded a country, deposed its leader, and our sitting president said, yeah, we did it for the oil. Now, while to a certain extent, I appreciate the fact that there's no cover-up lie, that they're just saying, yeah, we did it for oil. I don't appreciate it at fucking all, because we did it for oil, and we deposed an entire fucking nation because of it. And now he's going for Greenland? What we've done here is we've had the copying homework where the Nazis copied American white supremacy. And then America said, hey, you know what? Let's do that thing Germany did. And they copied their homework. And now we're just doing the same thing. We're just doing the same fucking thing. All of these wars in other nations, everything is just a proxy war. Everything is just a proxy war. It's all about resources. It's all about control. It's all about capitalism. It's all about oil. It's all about money. Even honestly, even all the genocides are also about money. Why? Like, it's rare earth metals in Greenland. It's all of the precious gems and rare earth metals in Africa. It's the oil that's in Israel. It's the control of the ports that you have over that region. Like, it's all of this. It's all connected. And because all of this is connected, it's this, which is because of this, which is so pervasive that I can't teach astronomy. So in conclusion, please stop. I just want to teach astronomy. I want to teach people about cultural cosmology. I want to teach people about the center of the Milky Way. I want to teach people about the black hole at the center of our galaxy called Sagittarius A star. It's so cool. There's some really cool stars around that black hole, and I did whole research projects on them. I can show people how to use different tools to do their own stellar collision simulations. Ooh, doesn't that sound fancy? You can literally run a simulation on your computer, collide two stars, and watch the colors go crazy. But I can't teach that if every time I try and teach an astronomy program, the program gets cut. Because what we're dealing with is class war. What we're dealing with is an AI bubble. Because guess what my astronomy program was replaced with? That's right, a coding class. You know how many people I know that are currently graduating or have graduated in the last couple of years with a computer science degree that cannot find any work whatsoever? Almost everyone I know that didn't already have a job cannot find one. Especially those that studied computer science. The only people that are hiring are defense contractors. And let me tell you, not much defense happening when we rename it the Department of War. I'm Eris. Please let me teach us. Thank you for watching. I got on a tangent about capitalism again. I need to stop doing that.